Welcome, dear soul, to this sacred moment beneath the covering of God's gentle mercy. You're not here by accident. Perhaps you've come with questions too heavy to carry. Or maybe you are weary from the battles of the day, needing rest, but craving more than just sleep. You long for peace that settles your spirit and a presence that doesn't leave when the night grows long. Tonight, we open our hearts to Psalms 9 through 17. These are not just poetic words from an ancient king. They are cries of justice, laments of the soul songs of faith in darkness, and declarations of unwavering trust in the God who sees, who hears, and who delivers. In these Psalms, David doesn't hide his fears, and he doesn't pretend to be strong. He pours it all out before the Lord. And that's exactly what you are invited to do here. Maybe you're in a season where evil seems to prosper, where your prayers feel like whispers lost in the wind, or where your own heart is confused and uncertain. The Psalms remind us that we can bring it all to God: the pain, the praise, the questions, and the worship. You don't need to perform. You don't need to pretend. You just need to come. So let your heart settle. Take a deep breath. Let go of the tension in your shoulders. This is a safe place. This is holy ground. We're not rushing through Scripture tonight. We're lingering. We're listening. And we're letting the words of David become the words of our own prayer. May these Psalms speak into your silence, light your night, and remind you that you are never alone. The Lord is not only near. He is your refuge, your strong tower, and your ever-present help in time of trouble. Let us begin heart-open spirit, still ready to be restored by the word of the living God. Psalm 9. The Lord also will be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble. In Psalm 9, David steps forward not just as a king, but as a worshiper who has seen both victory and injustice. He begins with gratitude, proclaiming his wholehearted praise for the Lord's wonderful works. But beneath his thanksgiving lies the weight of a deeper truth, that in a world so often filled with injustice, violence, and deceit, our only real safety, our only lasting justice comes from God alone. This psalm is a testimony, a personal declaration, a courtroom of sorts where David presents not only God's faithful acts, but also his own deep desire for righteousness to reign in the earth. As we begin this psalm together, imagine David with his hands lifted and his heart exposed, saying, "I will praise you, Lord, with my whole heart." Not just the parts that are grateful, but even the parts that are tired, wounded, or afraid. This is what the psalm invites us into: full-hearted praise that doesn't ignore pain, but brings pain into worship. That kind of praise is not easy. It is forged through fire, through nights of fear and days of uncertainty. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you are there now. David reminds us that God's justice is not theoretical. It is active. He judges in righteousness. He defends those who are crushed. He does not forget the cry of the humble. This is not a distant deity, but a personal refuge for the brokenhearted. Let your heart linger on that phrase, a refuge in times of trouble. What a beautiful name for our God. He is not only a judge, not only a king. He is a refuge, a hiding place, a shelter, a place you run to when the world presses in too close. If you've ever felt cornered by anxiety, if sorrow has sat at the foot of your bed, if fear has followed you like a shadow, Psalm 9 is for you. It tells you that God sees the injustice. He knows the betrayals, and he keeps record not just of wrongs, but of every tear, every groan, every whispered prayer in the dark. David doesn't sugarcoat evil. He names it. He sees the wickedness of nations, the corruption of leaders, the suffering of the innocent. But instead of despairing, he turns his eyes higher. He says, "The Lord shall endure forever." Earthly rulers rise and fall, kingdoms crumble, but the justice of God remains unshaken. There's a quiet strength in this psalm, the kind of strength that doesn't roar but rests. That says, "I don't have all the answers, but I trust the one who does." Maybe tonight, you don't need to figure it all out. Maybe you just need to rest in the truth that God is still on his throne and his justice is not late. It is precise, and it is coming. As you listen to Psalm 9 in its full form, let it wash over your heart like a balm. Let it remind you that your voice matters to God, that your wounds are not invisible, that praise can still rise from pain, and that the righteous judge of all the earth will not forget you. Now, let us listen to the sacred words of Psalm 9. 1. I will praise thee, O Lord, with my whole heart. I will show forth all thy marvelous works. 2. I will be glad and rejoice in thee. I will sing praise to thy name, O thou most high. 3. When mine enemies are turned back, they shall fall and perish at thy presence. 4. For thou hast maintained my right and my cause. Thou satest in the throne, judging right. 5. Thou hast rebuked the heathen. Thou hast destroyed the wicked. Thou hast put out their name forever and ever. 6. O thou enemy destructions are come to a perpetual end, and thou hast destroyed cities. Their memorial is perished with them. 7. But the Lord shall endure forever. He hath prepared his throne for judgment. 8. And he shall judge the world in righteousness. He shall minister judgment to the people in uprightness. 9. The Lord also will be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble. 10. And they that know thy name will put their trust in thee, for thou, Lord, hast not forsaken them that seek thee. 11. Sing praises to the Lord, which dwelleth in Zion, declare among the people his doings. Number 12. When he maketh inquisition for blood, he remembereth them. He forgetteth not the cry of the humble. 13. Have mercy upon me, O Lord. Consider my trouble which I suffer of them that hate me, thou that liftest me up from the gates of death. 14. That I may show forth all thy praise in the gates of the daughter of Zion, I will rejoice in thy salvation. 15. The heathen are sunk down in the pit that they made in the net, which they hid is their own foot taken. 16. The Lord is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. Higgaion, Selah. 17. The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God. 18. For the needy shall not always be forgotten. The expectation of the poor shall not perish forever. 19. Arise. O Lord, let not man prevail. Let the heathen be judged in thy sight. 22. Put them in fear, O Lord, that the nations may know themselves to be but men. Selah. See Psalm 10. Lord, thou hast seen it, for thou beholdest mischief and spite, to requite it with thy hand. Psalm 10 begins with a cry that many of us have whispered in our hearts. Why standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? It's a psalm for those moments when God feels silent, when injustice seems to go unanswered, when evil appears to win and righteousness looks like it's gasping for breath. David opens this psalm not with praise, but with a question, not with a declaration of victory, but with the ache of confusion. And in doing so, he gives you permission to be honest with God. Have you ever asked God, where are you? This psalm tells you that you're not faithless for asking. You're human, and you're heard. The psalm paints a picture of the wicked, those who boast, persecute the poor, and reject God without fear. They are arrogant, deceiving, violent, greedy, and worst of all, they seem to get away with it. Their ways prosper, their words deceive. Their victims cry out, and nothing seems to change. You can almost feel the tension in David's spirit. It's the tension we often live in, the space between what we believe about God and what we see around us. But then something shifts. David, instead of running from God in his confusion, runs to God with it. He pours it out, naming the injustice, naming the hurt, naming the desperation, and somewhere in the pouring, his faith begins to rise. He remembers that God does see, that God does hear, that God will not always let the wicked prevail, that the afflicted and the orphan and the oppressed are not forgotten. This is the turning point, the sacred moment where faith does not ignore evil, but dares to believe in justice anyway. a justice not born of men, but rooted in the eternal character of God. Let this psalm be a comfort to you if you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever seen evil go unpunished, if you've ever wept for the oppressed and wondered if it mattered. Psalm 10 assures us that God sees. He sees the manipulation, the abuse, the cruelty. He sees what happens behind closed doors. He sees what the world tries to ignore. And not only does he see, he will act. The psalm says, God will break the arm of the wicked. This is not passive compassion. This is powerful justice. God will intervene. God will restore. But until that day, Psalm 10 teaches us to do what David did, to bring our outrage to God, to cry out for those who have no voice, to lament and intercede, to wait and to trust. And tonight, as you rest under the weight of this psalm, remember this. Your questions do not push God away. They pull you closer. Your heartbreak is not wasted. It is precious in His sight. And your longing for justice is not yours alone. It is shared by the very heart of God. Let us now hear the words of Psalm 10 and let them echo through every dark corner, reminding us that God is not blind, God is not far, and God is never unjust. Wart nun. Why standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? 2. The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. 33. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. For the wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts. 5. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. 6. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. 7. His mouth is full of cursing, and deceit and fraud under his tongue is mischief and vanity. 8. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, in the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. 9. He lieth in wait secretly, as a lion in his den, he lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. 10. He croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. 11. He hath said in his heart, God hath forgotten, he hideth his face, he will never see it. 12. Arise, O Lord. O God, lift up thine hand, forget not the humble. 13. Wherefore doth the wicked contemn God? He hath said in his heart, thou wilt not require it. 14. Thou hast seen it. For thou beholdest mischief and spite, to requite it with thy hand, the poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. 15. Break thou the arm of the wicked, and the evil man seek out his wickedness, till thou find none. 16. The Lord is king forever, and ever the heathen are perished out of his land. 17. Lord, thou hast heard the desire of the humble, thou wilt prepare their heart, thou wilt cause thine ear to hear. 18. To judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. Psalm 11. For the righteous Lord loveth righteousness, his countenance doth behold the upright. Psalm 11 is short, but it speaks with quiet fire. In just 7 verses, David gives us a vision of unshakable faith in a time when everything seems to be falling apart. The psalm begins with a declaration, In the Lord put I my trust. But immediately after David confronts voices around him, voices of fear and panic, they tell him to flee, to escape. Flee as a bird to your mountain. Why? Because the foundations are being destroyed. Because the wicked are stringing their bows in the dark. Have you ever felt like that, surrounded by chaos? Overwhelmed by evil? Maybe you've heard that same whisper. Everything is crumbling. Just run. Hide. Give up. Psalm 11 teaches us to respond not with panic, but with purpose. Not with retreat, but with remembrance. David doesn't deny the danger. He acknowledges it. But then he lifts his eyes. He shifts his gaze from the arrows of the wicked to the throne of God. The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. The world may tremble, but heaven is steady. The foundations of men may shake, but the rule of God is immovable. That's the heart of this psalm. It reminds us that when we feel destabilized, we must re-anchor our faith in the character of God. His throne is not symbolic, it is real. His rule is not theoretical, it is active, and his gaze is not distant. He sees. He tries the hearts of men. He tests both the righteous and the wicked. David says, "The Lord tries the righteous." That's a difficult truth. It means God allows testing even for those who love him. Not because he's absent, but because he's near. Because he is refining faith. Because he wants to build something unbreakable in you. At the same time, God does not turn a blind eye to evil. David says, "Upon the wicked, he shall rain snares, fire, and brimstone." These are not gentle words. They are the vocabulary of divine justice. They assure us that God is not mocked, that though evil may seem unchecked for a season, it will meet its end. And then David closes the psalm with a truth so simple, so profound, that it could carry you through your darkest hour. For the righteous Lord loveth righteousness. He loves it, not tolerates it, not demands it as a cold requirement. He loves righteousness. He delights in uprightness, and his eyes are turned toward those who walk in his ways. So what can you take from Psalm 11 tonight? First, that fear is real, but faith is stronger. Second, that the throne of God is never empty, never shaken. And third, that God sees you. He tests your heart, yes, but not to crush you, to shape you, to strengthen what remains, to prepare you for more. Let this psalm be your anthem when the world feels unstable. Let it lift your eyes higher, and let it assure your soul that the one who reigns in heaven is still in control, still watching, and still worthy of your trust. Let us now listen to the words of Psalm 11 in full. 1. In the Lord put I my trust. How say ye to my soul, flee as a bird to your mountain too? For lo, the wicked bend their bow, they make ready their arrow upon the string, that they may privily shoot at the upright in heart. 3. If the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? 4. The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold his eyelids, try the children of men. 5. The Lord trieth the righteous, but the wicked, and him that loveth violence, his soul hateth. 6. Upon the wicked he shall rain snares, fire and brimstone, and an horrible tempest. This shall be the portion of their cup. 7. For the righteous Lord loveth righteousness. His countenance doth behold the upright. Psalm 12. The words of the Lord are pure words, as silver tried in a furnace of earth, purified 7 times. Psalm 12 is a cry of desperation from a man surrounded by falsehood. David looks around and sees a society unraveling, not through war or disaster, but through something more subtle, more dangerous corruption of words. He opens with a plea, "Help, Lord, for the godly man ceaseth, for the faithful fail from among the children of men." Have you ever felt that way, as if faithfulness has disappeared from the world? As if honesty and integrity have become rare treasures buried under layers of manipulation and deceit? This psalm is for the soul who feels disheartened by the state of the world. David sees a culture where everyone speaks vanity, where flattering lips rule, and where the double heart has become normal. In modern terms, we might say everyone has an agenda, and no one says what they truly mean. Authenticity is replaced by performance. Truth is buried beneath self-interest. And yet David doesn't fall into despair. He brings this burden to God. He trusts that God not only sees, but acts. God responds in verse 5 with a declaration that should lift the weary heart. For the oppression of the poor, for the sighing of the needy, now will I arise, saith the Lord. Here we see a divine reaction to human suffering. God is not passive. He is not distant. He hears every sigh. He sees every injustice. And at the appointed time he will arise. Psalm 12 is also a battle between two kinds of speech, the lies of men and the promises of God. David highlights this contrast so clearly that it feels like a prophetic warning for every generation. The words of men are filled with flattery and falsehood, but the words of the Lord are pure words, not diluted, not misleading, not manipulative. They are like silver refined in a furnace 7 times over. In a world where words have lost meaning, God's word still stands. It is flawless, timeless, dependable. Let that sink in tonight. When you cannot trust the voices around you, you can still trust the voice of heaven. When opinions swirl like storms, the word of God is your anchor. And not just in theory in real life, in real pain, in real confusion. David ends the psalm with a sober observation. The wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted. It's a picture of what happens when corruption is not only tolerated, but celebrated. When those who should be ashamed are instead lifted high. And yet in the middle of that, David believes that God will preserve his people. He will keep the faithful. He will guard the helpless. He will defend truth. Tonight, if you feel disillusioned by the world's lies, come to Psalm 12 for clarity. If you've been wounded by false promises, Psalm 12 offers healing. If you've grown tired of voices that manipulate and confuse, Psalm 12 invites you to rest in a different voice, the voice of God, whose words do not change, whose promises are not broken, and whose justice never sleeps. Let us now listen to the words of Psalm 12 in full, and let them remind us that even in the noisiest world, the pure voice of the Lord still speaks peace and truth. Help, Lord, for the godly man ceaseth, for the faithful fail from among the children of men. 2. They speak vanity. Every one with his neighbor with flattering lips, and with a double heart do they speak. 3. The Lord shall cut off all flattering lips, and the tongue that speaketh proud things. 4. Who have said, with our tongue will we prevail? Our lips are our own, who is Lord over us. Begv. For the oppression of the poor, for the sighing of the needy, now will I arise, saith the Lord. I will set him in safety from him that puffeth at him. 6. The words of the Lord are pure words, as silver tried in a furnace of earth, purified 7 times. 7. Thou shalt keep them, O Lord, thou shalt preserve them from this generation forever. 8. The wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted. Psalm 13. But I have trusted in thy mercy. My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation. Psalm 13 is one of the most emotionally raw passages in the entire book of Psalms. In just 6 short verses, David moves from despair to hope, from silence to song, from aching questions to deep assurance. The first words pierce with loneliness. How long, O Lord, will you forget me? Forever. This isn't casual disappointment. It's not a minor frustration. It is the cry of someone who feels completely abandoned by the God they love. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever prayed and heard nothing in return? Have you ever waited for an answer that never came? Then Psalm 13 is for you. David doesn't try to hide his pain. He doesn't wrap it in poetic metaphor or polite language. He says plainly what his soul is experiencing. How long will you hide your face from me? This is not doubt as rebellion. This is faith bleeding out in honesty. There is a holy kind of honesty that God welcomes, and this psalm models it. What makes this prayer so powerful is not just the pain it contains, but the fact that David still brings it to God. He doesn't turn away. He doesn't give up. He wrestles, but he remains in the relationship. He believes God is listening even when silence stretches long. He pleads, consider and hear me. O Lord my God, lighten mine eyes lest I sleep the sleep of death. This is not dramatic exaggeration. David is spiritually exhausted. He feels like he's on the edge of collapse. The phrase lighten mine eyes is his way of asking for renewed life, for hope to return, for the fog of despair to lift. But then in verses 5 and 6, something miraculous happens. Without any sign that circumstances have changed, David's voice shifts. He says, but I have trusted in thy mercy. The turning point doesn't come when his pain ends. It comes when his focus shifts. Instead of staring into the silence, he reaches back into memory and anchors himself in the nature of God. Mercy, salvation, goodness. These things have not disappeared. They just feel hidden. He continues, "My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation. I will sing unto the Lord, because he hath dealt bountifully with me." Notice the tense. He has dealt bountifully. David is still in the waiting, still in the unanswered, still in the mystery. But he is choosing to remember God's past faithfulness as a guarantee of future deliverance. Psalm 13 teaches us something profound. Your feelings may tell you that God has forgotten you, but your faith can remind you that he never will. Your pain may silence your song, but your memory of God's goodness can help you sing again. This psalm is an invitation to worship while you wait, to praise before the breakthrough, to trust even when the silence stretches longer than you imagined. Tonight, if you are in a dark place, if your soul is crying, how long let Psalm 13 be your prayer? Not a polished one, not a perfect one, but an honest one. Let it remind you that you can bring your confusion to God, that you can question without quitting, that even in your weakness, trust can rise. And in the end, you may find yourself singing, not because the storm is over, but because the one who holds you is faithful. Let us now listen to Psalm 13, and let the words be your companion through silence, through struggle, and into song. How long wilt thou forget me, O Lord, forever? How long wilt thou hide thy face from me? 2. How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart daily? How long shall mine enemy be exalted over me? 3. Consider and hear me. O Lord my God, lighten mine eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. 4. Lest mine enemies say, I have prevailed against him, and those that trouble me rejoice when I am moved. 5. But I have trusted in thy mercy. My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation. 6. I will sing unto the Lord, because he hath dealt bountifully with me. Psalm 14. The Lord looked down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there were any that did understand and seek God. Psalm 14 opens with a sobering statement. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. This is not simply an intellectual declaration. It is a heart posture, a life that chooses self as king and casts aside any accountability to the Creator. David looks around and sees a society untethered from truth, a people who have dismissed God not just with words, but with their lives. The consequences: corruption, injustice, and spiritual blindness. This psalm is not a philosophical musing, it's a moral diagnosis. When people live as though there is no God, the result is not freedom, but devastation. David writes, "They are corrupt, they have done abominable works, there is none that doeth good." It's easy to read that and think David is only talking about them, the outsiders, the unbelievers, the wicked. But this psalm also holds up a mirror to each of us, because spiritual apathy doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it slips in quietly in small compromises, in daily forgetfulness, in hearts that stop seeking. Verse 2 is deeply humbling. The Lord looked down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there were any that did understand and seek God. Imagine that scene, God himself looking down, scanning the earth, searching for hearts that long for him. And what does he find? They are all gone. Aside, they are altogether become filthy. There is none that doeth good, no, not one. This echoes what Paul would later write in Romans 3, that all have sinned, that none are righteous on their own, that without grace, we are all lost. Psalm 14 isn't trying to depress us, it's trying to wake us up, to show us the urgency of seeking God, to reveal that true wisdom begins with humility before the Lord. There is also a social dimension here. David laments that the workers of iniquity have no knowledge. They devour the poor, they oppress the righteous, they live without fear of God. And yet God is not indifferent. He sees, he knows, he protects his people. Verse 5 declares, "For God is in the generation of the righteous." even when the world mocks the Lord, stands with those who stand with him. Verse 6 continues this reassurance. Ye have shamed the counsel of the poor, because the Lord is his refuge. In other words, the very ones the world rejects, God embraces. The poor may have no political power, no status, no platform, but they have a refuge in God. Psalm 14 ends with a prophetic hope. Oh, that the salvation of Israel were come out of Zion. When the Lord bringeth back the captivity of his people, Jacob shall rejoice, and Israel shall be glad. This final cry looks ahead to redemption. It stirs hope that God will not only judge the wicked, but restore the faithful. That even in a corrupt generation, salvation is not just possible, it is coming. Psalm 14 invites us to ask ourselves, where do we stand? Do we live with reverence for God? Or do we quietly drift towards spiritual neglect? Are our lives rooted in truth or shaped by the fleeting opinions of culture? Tonight, let this psalm stir a holy urgency in your spirit, to seek God while he may be found, to walk in integrity even when the world mocks it, to remember that though many may forget God, he has not forgotten his people. Let us now hear the words of Psalm 14 and allow them to awaken in us a fresh desire for truth, wisdom, and communion with the Lord. So the fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt, they have done abominable works. There is none that doeth good. Seku. The Lord looked down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there were any that did understand and seek God. The Refuge. They are all gone aside. They are altogether become filthy. There is none that doeth good, no, not one. 4. Have all the workers of iniquity no knowledge who eat up my people, as they eat bread and call not upon the Lord? 5. There were they, in great fear for God is in the generation of the righteous. 6. Ye have shamed the counsel of the poor, because the Lord is his refuge. 7. O that the salvation of Israel were come out of Zion. When the Lord bringeth back the captivity of his people, Jacob shall rejoice, and Israel shall be glad. Psalm 15. He that walketh uprightly, and worketh righteousness, and speaketh the truth in his heart. Psalm 15 begins with a question that echoes through every soul that longs to be close to God. Lord, who shall abide in thy tabernacle? Who shall dwell in thy holy hill? This is more than a theological curiosity. It is a heart cry for nearness, for communion, for intimacy with the divine. David does not ask how to perform rituals or offer sacrifices. He asks, what kind of person can dwell in God's sacred presence? What kind of life is worthy of walking with him in constant nearness? And the answer is not found in ceremonial acts or external religion. It is found in the inner character of a person. The psalm unfolds like a mirror, reflecting the kind of soul that God welcomes. It speaks of someone who walks uprightly. That is a person who lives with integrity, both when seen and unseen. Not perfection, but honesty. Not flawlessness, but faithfulness. It describes someone who works righteousness, not just one who believes right things, but who lives them out. Their faith is not passive. It is active, expressed through choices, compassion, and justice. It honors the one who speaks the truth in their heart. This is rare in our world, to be the same inside and out, to let your words align with your convictions. No deception, no double life, no carefully managed appearances, just truth spoken softly, lived deeply. David continues describing someone who refuses to slander, who does not speak against a neighbor, who refrains from doing harm in secret or in shadow. The righteous are protectors, not destroyers. They heal what others break. They bless where others curse. And then comes a powerful image of integrity, someone who makes a promise and keeps it even when it hurts. In a culture where convenience often outweighs commitment, this kind of faithfulness stands out like gold in the dust. This psalm also speaks against injustice. The righteous person is not seduced by greed. They do not exploit the poor or take advantage of the weak. They cannot be bribed. Their soul is not for sale. All these traits point to a deeper truth. The kind of life that dwells in God's presence is not loud or flashy. It is steady, quiet, faithful, pure. It may not be celebrated by the world, but it is precious to the Lord. And the psalm ends with this promise: he that doeth these things shall never be moved. That is a foundation worth building on. In a world that shakes, this is the life that stands. Tonight, let Psalm 15 whisper to your heart. Let it call you not to religious performance, but to sincere devotion. Let it invite you to walk in integrity, to love what God loves, to seek holiness, not as pressure, but as presence. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be real. God draws near to those who walk in truth, who speak with kindness, who keep their word, who love what is right. If you've stumbled, take heart. His mercy is still for you. Rise again. Walk in His way, and you will find that the one who welcomes the upright is the one who also lifts the fallen. Let this psalm become your prayer, your desire, your path, and let your life be a quiet dwelling place for the nearness of God. First, Lord, who shall abide in thy tabernacle? Who shall dwell in thy holy hill? Segu, he that walketh uprightly, and worketh righteousness, and speaketh the truth in his heart. 3. He that backbiteth not with his tongue, nor doeth evil to his neighbor, nor taketh up a reproach against his neighbor. 4. In whose eyes a vile person is contemned, but he honoreth them that fear the Lord. He that sweareth to his own hurt and changeth not. 5. He that putteth not out his money to usury, nor taketh reward against the innocent. He that doeth these things shall never be moved. See Psalm 16. I have set the Lord always before me. 'Cause he is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. There is a quiet strength in Psalm 16, not the kind of thunderous praise or desperate lament we hear in other chapters, but a calm, steady trust that anchors the soul. David begins this psalm not with noise, but with a request that many of us whisper. Often in the stillness of our pain, preserve me, O God. It is a short sentence, but it carries deep meaning. He doesn't ask for comfort or clarity. He doesn't ask for a throne or victory. He simply asks to be kept, to be held, to not be lost in the chaos that surrounds him. And maybe tonight, that is your cry too. You don't need fireworks. You need God to preserve you, to sustain you, to keep you from falling apart inside. David continues, "For in thee do I put my trust." That sentence is more than religious language. It's a declaration of direction. When fear rises and the future is uncertain, where do you place your weight? Who do you trust with your tomorrow? David says, I place it in God, not in people, not in power, not in my own plan. In the next verses, David expresses something beautiful. He delights in the saints, he rejects the idols of the world, and he chooses to serve the Lord with joy. He is not just surviving, he is choosing a different path, one of surrender, of contentment, and of loyalty to God. Verse 5 declares, "The Lord is the portion of mine inheritance and of my cup. Thou maintainest my lot." That means David isn't fighting for scraps in this world. He has already received what matters most, the Lord himself. Then comes the central declaration of the psalm, a verse that has been quoted by apostles and saints. Throughout the centuries, I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. What does it mean to set the Lord always before you? It means you live with holy awareness. You fix your gaze on him. You walk knowing that he is not behind you or far from you, but beside you at your right hand, guiding and guarding you. That kind of awareness creates courage. It anchors your heart. It doesn't remove all trouble, but it steadies you through it. David says, I shall not be moved. That is not arrogance. That is confidence in the presence of God. Psalm 16 then flows into gladness. My heart is glad and my glory rejoiceth. My flesh also shall rest in hope. Even his body finds peace because his soul is secure. He ends with a breathtaking promise, a foreshadowing of Christ, and a hope for all believers. Thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore. That's the kind of peace we're drawn to. A path of life that doesn't end in the grave. A joy that doesn't come from circumstances. A pleasure that is not momentary but eternal. Psalm 16 is a quiet anthem of trust. It doesn't shout, it rests. It reminds us that when the world shakes and our heart is tempted to fear, there is one place to stand that will not collapse: the presence of the Lord. So tonight, as you listen, set the Lord always before you. Let His nearness be your strength. Let His path be your direction. And let His joy be your portion. 1. Preserve me, O God, for in Thee do I put my trust. 2. O my soul, thou hast said unto the Lord, Thou art my Lord, my goodness extendeth not to Thee. 3. But to the saints that are in the earth, and to the excellent in whom is all my delight. 4. Their sorrows shall be multiplied, that hasten after another God. Their drink offerings of blood will I not offer, nor take up their names into my lips. 5. The Lord is the portion of mine inheritance, and of my cup thou maintainest my lot. 6. The lines are fallen unto me in pleasant places. Yea, I have a goodly heritage. Number 7. I will bless the Lord who hath given me counsel. My reins also instruct me in the night seasons. 8. I have set the Lord always before me, because He is at my right hand. I shall not be moved. 9. Therefore my heart is glad, and my glory rejoiceth. My flesh also shall rest in hope. 10. For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. 11. Thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore. See Psalm 17. Keep me as the apple of the eye. Hide me under the shadow of thy wings. Psalm 17 is a cry from a heart that is both desperate and devoted. It is David's personal plea for divine protection, for justice, and for preservation in a world that feels unfair, violent, and spiritually hostile. He begins with these words, Hear the right, O Lord. He is not asking God to simply hear any prayer. He is appealing to God's righteousness. This is a bold opening. David is not approaching God as a beggar pleading for mercy. Alone, he is a man who has examined his heart and come in sincerity, not arrogance. He asks God to weigh his motives and search his soul. This is prayer that dares to be judged by God's holiness. Many of us come to prayer only after we are broken or exhausted. But David shows us a different kind of prayer, the kind that rises from a life of integrity and deep fellowship with God. He says, Thou hast tried me and shalt find nothing. Not that David is perfect, but he has walked in honest pursuit of God. And that honesty matters. As the psalm unfolds, we see a shift. David is surrounded by enemies. These are not metaphorical adversaries, they are real malicious people who aim to destroy him. He describes their pride, their cruelty, their lust for violence. And yet in the middle of the chaos, David turns his gaze away from them and places his trust in the steadfast love of God. The most intimate and beautiful line of this psalm is found in verse 8, Keep me as the apple of the eye, hide me under the shadow of thy wings. This is more than poetic language. To be the apple of the eye is to be cherished, watched over, protected. In ancient Hebrew, the apple refers to the pupil, the most sensitive part of the eye. It is instinctively guarded. So when David asks God to keep him as the apple of his eye, he's saying, Guard me as you would, the most delicate essential part of your vision. Then he says, Hide me under the shadow of thy wings. That is the language of intimacy and covering. It evokes the image of a mother bird sheltering her young under her feathers, not with cold indifference, but with warmth and resolve. David longs to live in that nearness to God, in that sacred place where enemies lose their power and fear loses its grip. The psalm becomes a mirror for our own lives. Have you ever felt like the darkness around you was too thick? Have you ever felt surrounded by people or pressures who wanted to see you fail? Have you ever wondered if God still sees you, still shields you, still holds you as precious? Psalm 17 says yes. It reminds us that the child of God is never truly vulnerable in the presence of the Almighty. That even when arrows fly and accusations rise, there is a place beneath His wings where no harm can truly touch the soul. Toward the end of the psalm, David contrasts the temporary victories of the wicked with the eternal reward of the righteous. He says, "They are filled with this world, their reward is here and now, but not him." David is living for something more. He ends the psalm with these words, "As for me, I will behold thy face in righteousness. I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness." This is the heart of the believer. We are not chasing temporary applause. We are not defined by worldly success. Our deepest satisfaction will not be found in revenge in riches, or even in resolution of our earthly conflicts. It will be found in waking up to the presence of God. Psalm 17 invites us to a higher prayer, one that isn't just about survival, but about communion. One that longs not only for justice on earth, but also for the beauty of seeing God's face in glory. David's enemies may have circled him, but his heart was circling the throne of heaven. Tonight, as you prepare to rest or reflect, may Psalm 17 settle into your soul like a song of trust. Let its words remind you that you are not forgotten, that God guards you like the pupil of His eye, that you are hidden under His wings, even in your most vulnerable hours. So pray boldly, live honestly, wait patiently, and fix your eyes not on the darkness around you, but on the radiance of His face. Hear the right, O Lord, attend unto my cry, give ear unto my prayer that goeth not out of feigned lips. 2. Let my sentence come forth from thy presence. Let thine eyes behold the things that are equal. 3. Thou hast proved mine heart. Thou hast visited me in the night. Thou hast tried me, and shalt find nothing. I am purposed that my mouth shall not transgress. 4. Concerning the works of men by the word of thy lips, I have kept me from the paths of the destroyer. 5. Hold up my goings in thy paths, that my footsteps slip not. 6. I have called upon thee, for thou wilt hear me. O God, incline thine ear unto me, and hear my speech. 7. Show thy marvelous loving kindness. O thou that savest by thy right hand, them which put their trust in thee from those that rise up against them. 8. Keep me as the apple of the eye, hide me under the shadow of thy wings. 9. From the wicked that oppress me, from my deadly enemies who compass me about. 10. They are enclosed in their own fat, with their mouth they speak proudly. 11. They have now compassed us in our steps, they have set their eyes bowing down to the earth. 12. Like as a lion that is greedy of his prey, and as it were a young lion lurking in secret places. 13. Arise, O Lord, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked which is thy sword. 14. From men which are thy hand, O Lord, from men of the world, which have their portion in this life, and whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasure. They are full of children, and leave the rest of their substance to their babes. 15. As for me, I will behold thy face in righteousness. I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness. Thank you for spending this sacred time in the Psalms. Tonight, we've walked through deep valleys of lament and stood on quiet hills of trust. We've heard the cry of the afflicted, the trembling hope of the forsaken, the strength of those who run to God as their refuge. And through it all, we've seen one unchanging truth: the Lord is near. If your soul feels heavy tonight, know that God is not far off. He sees every sigh, He counts every tear. He remembers those who suffer and defends those who cry out in faith. When the world feels unjust, when evil seems to prevail, remember our God is still on the throne. He is a righteous judge, a faithful friend, and a hiding place for the brokenhearted. Let the words of these Psalms linger with you as you rest. Let them become the quiet prayers of your own heart. And if tonight you have found comfort in His promises, come back tomorrow. There is more strength waiting, more hope to awaken, more peace to carry you through. May your night be filled with His presence. May your dreams be wrapped in His mercy. And may you wake tomorrow with renewed courage to walk in His light. Good night, and may the Lord bless you deeply.